Hi there, and this is my first video under this new alliances. Any criticism is greatly appreciated. This is simply a video in which I talk about an issue that I'm passionate about, and I think the viewing experience of this video is best done while doing something else and just letting the audio be the main focus of the experience in general. I do have some gameplay in the background of the games I'm going to be talking about, but really it's the audio that matters the most. With that in mind, production quality will, increase, of course, as time goes on. But for now, it's this. So, like I said, leave any criticism, and without further ado, here to talk about Star Wars Battlefront 2, and why it's a sad state of affairs, and how honestly it shouldn't be the way it is. There's no reason for it to be, right? So, for those of you who don't know, and that's probably all of you who don't keep up with Star Wars Battlefront 2, which is everybody who doesn't play Star Wars Battlefront 2, essentially, which is a lot of people at this point. Star Wars Battlefront 2 has, a leaker finally let the cat out of the bag that in August, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is being abandoned. After only, after what will be in the future, as of right now it's only one, but what will be after only 2 major updates, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is being canned. Which is depressing considering it's Star Wars and EA is giving up on Star Wars. And why is this? Well, for those of you who don't know, ever since launch, Star Wars Battlefront 2 has been under fire. It's not surprising. Battlefront 1 was, a dumpster fire, even though, well, admittedly, it wasn't a bad game. I mean, I kind of enjoyed it. It was really bare bones, and does get boring after a while because of how limited you are in your content. Even with the season pass, it still gets repetitive, and waiting for content to come out even when you had the season pass was fucking ridiculous. You essentially paid $60 for what seems to be a trial version of the fucking game, and then you paid for the season pass, which was just as expensive as the game, if not slightly less, and that would allow you access to, I don't know, another 45% of the fucking game, which is ridiculous. No campaign, by the way. Now, after this extremely low standard set by the first next-gen Star Wars game, people seeing Battlefront 2 was almost like fucking Jesus' second coming, right? People see the game being overhauled, a lot of things changed, new maps, new heroes from different eras. It was like they were listening to us. Free DLC, there's a campaign and it adds to the Star Wars canon. Incredible. Star Wars Battlefront 2 was legitimately being set up to be a rival to shit that was also coming out at the time, like World War II, COD World War II, which I'm gonna be honest, didn't make that big of a splash, which is expected of Call of Duty at this point. Like COD isn't gonna be the biggest thing, but it certainly did better than Battlefront 2, and Battlefront 2 could have easily done better than World War II. And Destiny 2 was there, and Destiny also was kind of given a black sheep label. And in fact, actually, right now as we speak, Destiny 2 is still under massive fire because that game is also being handled quite poorly. But it could have easily taken the top spot for a game that was released in November. But looky here, through the promises of free DLC and the campaign and you're getting free DLC? It's insane. No, of course not, dude. Of course there's a fucking string attached. EA has microtransactions in the game. Alright, well, microtransactions vary, right? There's currency-based microtransactions, which, in my opinion, are some of the worst. Street Fighter V lets you buy costumes and characters. While I think costumes, I guess they do take, some degree of effort to implement into the game. You need the art team to create something unique, and they have to sell it. Characters, I don't mind, because characters do take resources to make, and especially fighting game characters are not exactly a simple science. No. Uh, Somehow worse than currency, EA makes a pay-to-win microtransaction system. How, you say? Well, you can use currency to purchase boxes. What are in these boxes? No, not cosmetics. Of course not. Not only are you getting something random, this something random is literally random stat upgrades for characters. Which is fucked up. That was fucked up. I mean, that shit is in a mobile game. A mobile game. When I buy a $60 title, I'm not expecting quality in design philosophies associated with mobile games in my $60 AAA Star Wars game. It's so jarring that they even thought this would work. Like, naturally, this makes a huge splash because everybody's eyeing the game as it is, right? A lot of companies can just get away with that. PlayerUnknown's has horrible, horrible loot box philosophies. They had ads on their game, and yeah, that did make a splash. It wasn't as big of a splash as this, because no, EA's not going to get away with it. Literally everybody's eyeing EA. Companies can pull scumbag moves like this when they have a lot of clout. Sorry to use that word with the gaming community, but I have no idea how EA had the gall to do this after they've been outed as repeat offenders for what seems like a million times over. So this causes them to pull a PR move, and this PR move is after launch they remove all microtransactions from the game. This leaves the loot box system in there, but it's just a slow grind fest now that has no alternative to it, in which, you can't actually buy anything or advance the grind fest any faster. Wow. Fucking philosopher kings, they figured out the issue. So, now they promise it's not going to be like this forever. They're going to bring back microtransactions in a different way. And it didn't seem like they knew how at first, because they were like, we can't bring in cosmetics because, there's not enough. You can't bring in cosmetics from the canon. We can't do it. That can't be a microtransaction. Even though that's actually how it is right now, funny enough. Anyways, several months down the line, well, not several, right after November, we get our first season in The Last Jedi season. This is the first of the free DLC they promised. Now, what's funny enough is they are giving this free DLC sans making any money off the microtransactions. So yeah, in this case, truly you were given this content for free, in which you've got Last Jedi themed maps, etc. And then now we get a reworked microtransaction system that actually finally does its job. Where they created new skins, which, by the way, they said they weren't going to do. They created new skins in order to satiate the audience. So, why are they all of a sudden abandoning it? Well, I mean, it's too late at this point. The player, you're not getting any of the people who came in day one to spend money on the microtransactions. You're getting the small group of, people who, albeit have a lot of disdain the Star Wars community. They really do. You're getting them to spend money on the game they've had for a while. A lot of them have dropped off. And the leaker said in August the final piece of content's coming out, and after that there will be no further support for the game. The only piece of content coming out before that is reused assets from the last game. Just reused maps. Brilliant. Truly brilliant. And it's a sad state of affairs when a Star Wars game is being treated like this. A game that tells a very similar story, albeit from the other side of the fence, is For Honor. What do I mean by the other side of the fence? No, For Honor didn't start out as an amazing game and degraded. Actually, Battlefront 2 was just never an amazing game. It started out as a bad game and it's going to leave like that. No. For Honor is the other route that could have been taken. For Honor started out as, it's a niche game. Tracks a niche. Not everybody wants to be a knight or a samurai. The game has a bit of a learning curve to it. By the way, don't let that, prevent you from buying it. It's an amazing game right now. And at launch, a lot of players left because the game just was poorly balanced. The dedicated servers were just not existent, and there was not a lot of content, and the game was made purposely grindy so that way you would feed into microtransactions. This seemed like Ubisoft, and I'm gonna be honest, at first that's how I felt about it as well. I was like, oh, how very Ubisoft of you to do, to make a game that could have been amazing, a steaming pile of dog shit, because For Honor in concept's a great fucking game, and you're not gonna get too much like it out there that is fun, because I know the chivalry's out there, but I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I would not play chivalry for 1 second over this game. This game just has a lot more to it, in terms of, what I like. But what happened? Over the course of many, many months, this game's a year old and it's still getting support and it still has players. But how did this happen? Didn't a lot of the player base leave? Yeah, they've improved the game a hell of a lot. They've improved it an insane amount to the point where people have actually come back to the game to play it now. And oh gosh, my phone went off. I did not want that. It's an anomaly, and this didn't have the same advantages that Star Wars had. Star Wars is like the rich kid in this situation. This is the rich kid who became a druggie and doesn't really have a career path, and he's kind of just staying at home with his parents. He's really given up, and he's like, alright, if I move out, I'm going to collect welfare checks, and that's all he's doing, dude. He's not doing a whole lot. He's a loser. You don't want to hang out with him too much. He's kind of a funny guy every now and again. And this guy is the guy who, had glass limbs, and he had all the disadvantages in life. He was born to a poor family in a poor neighborhood. He doesn't have a fucking father, okay? And this guy somehow comes out way better than people who are able-bodied, and somehow better than Star Wars Battlefront 2, who was given all the advantages in the world. Not only does this game have to appeal to a niche demographic who are into, knights and stuff like that, there's a second niche of people who are willing to put effort into getting good at a multiplayer game, who are competitive enough, because I know people who literally won't touch multiplayer games because they just don't want to play multiplayer games. They're scared of losing and stuff like that, which, that's whatever. But these are a lot of barriers to entry, and please, like I said, don't let that stop you from getting this amazing game. Now, this makes its triumph so much more impressive. And this has been a gradual change, okay? This didn't just happen overnight. Like I said, the game's a year old now, and all of a sudden I'm playing it again when I used to despise it. I literally, this new, I don't know, during this revival, yeah, it's a revival of the game, I've put more time in it than I ever have. Even at launch, I've put more time in it. This character I'm playing right now, I never touched. All this stuff I have equipped on him, right? This is armor that you get from being, fairly high level with that character. I didn't do that when the game first launched, because I just didn't want to play the game. I was forcing myself to play it, and I just couldn't, and eventually I gave up on it. The game's massive, too. I didn't want to reinstall it. I was motivated, dude. I was motivated with all the changes they made, and I kind of wanted to play the game again, give it a shot, and I was not disappointed. So it's insane how a game like this, which had no hope at all, and I didn't think it had any hope. Not like Ubisoft doesn't seem like the company who would ever do this. They've shown time and time again that they honestly don't care. They're okay with putting out unfinished games, which I guess they technically did way back when, but in its current form, For Honor is pretty fucking decent, absolutely. And that, I guess is a nice gaming success story, but I'm here to talk about Star Wars Battlefront 2. I talked about this just to show that there is no real reason EA, there's no reason at all, literally none, that EA fucking should have failed in their endeavors to make a good Star Wars game. Because like I said, this game could succeed with literally none of the advantages Star Wars Battlefront 2 had. And, it's doing far better than a lot of the games in its industry right now. So, this begs the question: if Star Wars Battlefront 2 will never attain status like For Honor, it won't be a For Honor success story. It's just gonna be another corpse. When are we gonna get a Star Wars game that is gonna be enjoyed by all? Well, maybe sometime in your lifetime is the answer. Why is this crestfallen dweeb? I think that's what I named myself. Sorry, it's first day on the job again. So you gotta ease back into it, right? Well, the reason EA even owns Star Wars isn't because they're the most qualified, isn't because they're the most competent. Well, unless you count money as a qualification, or money as a measure of competence, it's because they suit Disney's purposes for the time being. I mean, save for that PR disaster that Disney involved themselves into because they needed to save face. It's because not many other companies can take on a Star Wars contract to make multiple Star Wars games and shut up about it. You think Disney wants to lend the Star Wars license for one game and then they have to do it again and again and again? They don't want to do that. They just want to leave it alone for a few years and then they check the contract and they're like, alright, it's about to run out. They collect extra money from EA again, and then they send them on their way, and EA makes more games. That's what they want. They don't exactly want to have themselves be bothered with, video games as a whole. They don't really see that as what they want to invest all their time into and get a lot of their money from. And a lot of you might be like, oh, they're idiots. Well, I mean, if you owned Star Wars and Marvel and your films are doing pretty good, even though, a lot of them are kind of mediocre. I'm not ragging on Infinity War, it's really good. But a lot of Marvel movies are mediocre. And fucking almost all of the recent Star Wars movies are also pretty fucking, especially compared to the original. I don't know, Solo's not out yet. I'm gonna hold my breath, but Childish Gambino as Lando is it's a bad omen. But anyways, we're off topic. So yeah, they don't really have time to bother themselves with that, and it's unfortunate because you're never really gonna get a nice, cool single-player game unless EA changes their entire philosophy on Star Wars games. I don't know. Maybe at some point, if you beat EA enough, if you show EA that they can't keep pulling this shit. They can't keep fucking trying to scam people out of money. They can't keep pulling these custom or unfriendly moves. Perhaps at one point they're going to sit down and be like, what haven't we tried? And then somebody in the room is going to be like, ever listening to our fans even in the slightest way possible? And somebody's going to be like, oh yeah? Being consumer friendly. Perhaps God of War being a great selling game right now, the subject of a lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people are talking about it. The thing is, I'm in the gaming space, socially, right? And online. I am in the gaming space, but I'm not to the point where I hear about everything, right? So for me to hear about God of War so prominently that's pretty irregular. It's pretty irregular. Yeah, I go to school and you hear people talking about God of War. People are making memes about God of War. The community's there. It's like, wow. And it's a single-player game, which, by the way, EA has gone on record saying that, those aren't popular. And yet, they're proven wrong time and time again. So maybe at some point in your lifetime, you're going to get a Star Wars game that you want, although it might be, I don't know, based off of the new trilogy, which that's not exactly desirable, but whatever. But, there's always hope, and, I mean, it does require an optimistic outlook, but I do believe eventually there will be the return of great Star Wars games, which, has there been great I mean, I like Super Star Wars. That was alright. The old Battlefronts were good, but I don't know if there's a Star Wars single-player experience that I really, really thoroughly enjoyed. Really, really enjoyed. Whatever. It's the unfortunate reality, but we have to live with it. That's just the way it is. But, if anything, what I've gleaned from this is that the gaming industry is, right now, not exactly a consumer-friendly place in general. It's not a place where, I can get a product from a company and expect them to, give me that product exactly how I mode it. It's not a place where I can purchase something and be content with the result, necessarily. I can purchase something for $60, and I'm not actually owed the full experience. Which, like I said, is not a very good thing to... It's not a very good thing that exists. It shouldn't exist, in my opinion. That shouldn't be the way it is. But it is. And with that, I've run out of things to talk about. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, I'm open to criticism, anything like that. This is mostly something I'm using to get better at just talking like this. I like to do public speaking now. I'm getting into that, and a lot of my careers in the future could involve that. But I just want to talk as naturally as possible. These are all unscripted. This is just off the cuff. And you can tell because I do take pauses sometimes when I absolutely run out of things to say. I stutter or I fall over my words. But for the most part, I want it to be as natural as possible. And, I mean, it's not going to be the best content ever, unfortunately. And I'm sorry about that. And, I mean, at one point, I'll try to improve its quality in general. But it's something I've just been wanting to do for a while. And this subject has allowed me to do so. And that, in turn, concludes the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for, listening, not technically watching. If you watched all the way to 21 minutes, because that's how long this fucking video is, Jesus Christ. If you liked it, give it a like. It doesn't really matter. Just going through the motions, honestly, I don't care. Do whatever you want. But overall, like I said, the most important thing is just leaving criticism or any sort of comment. I hope you enjoy the rest of your whatever the fuck time zone you're in right now.